Hello, and I thought I would share, so I'm making a few videos for this week. So first video that I'm going to be working on is I'm going to show you all the process of hooping and quilting a quilt in the hoop. So the first thing I use is a dime magnetic hoop. I love these hoops. It makes it where when you're hooping the fabric, they stay together. So first thing you want to do is you want to sandwich that quilt. So sandwiching the quilt is you have your backing fabric right side down, then you have your batting, and you have your top. I always add a little bit of extra on the side, that way we can get it hooped as far as the edges we can. So now we have it all hooped in here, and we will take it over and get it loaded into the sewing machine. So we're back at the sewing machine, and what we have done is we've gotten it loaded into the sewing machine. We have loaded the design onto the machine. Let me flip you guys around here. So we've got it loaded into the sewing machine, and I've kind of got the quilt hanging on a footstool here, so it kind of keeps the weight of that quilt up. That way it's not pulling down on that frame. You want to be careful on that, because the bigger quilts you go, because this is queen size quilt, y'all. So I'm doing a queen size quilt here on this embroidery machine. So next thing you do is you get your design loaded in here. This is 16 by 9, so I've got a really big hoop. So if you're doing a big quilt, you want to use a big hoop on there. So I am using, I don't want to take away from the quilt, because the quilt is just gorgeous. So what I've done is I've got some white thread on the bottom for the bobbin. That is the bobbin thread. And then for the top, I'm using a cream color. So we'll be quilting, go ahead and let it start here. Because what we'll do is we'll let it quilt in here, and like I said, we're just going to do loops on here. Nothing fancy. Depending on what quilt I'm working on is depending on whether I'm going to do like a fancy stitch or what kind of stitch we're going to do. But I'm kind of liking the loops. The loops are pretty. And like I said, the quilt is what makes it. So, but then you go and add these quilting designs to it, and it just gives it that finishing touch. Gives it the finishing touch there and makes it really, really pretty. So what we're going to do is we will go through here, and I will get this quilted here. And like I said, it's going to take quite a few hoopings. It'll take quite a few hoopings on here. But as you can see, it's going to be really pretty. That is going to be really pretty. And it doesn't take away from the quilt. It doesn't take away from the quilt. Sometimes you want to use a thread that'll make it pop. Other times you just want to use a color thread that isn't really going to show, but yet you're going to still be able to see the quilting on there. So, like I said, super pretty. Loops are pretty. I like loops. Loops give it a really cool finishing touch. So, but like I said, this will take probably a few hours to get this quilted. So it takes about 3 minutes per hooping on here. So we'll get this all hooped and quilted, and then I will show you all the next step on getting this going though. So like I said, the magnetic frames, these are a must. I have, like I said, this one is a 16 or 16 and a half by 10, I think. So I can't remember the exact size of the frame, but it's pretty much the biggest frame that the dime has, so I think anyways. So we're able to do those bigger designs, especially on those bigger projects. So, and as you can see, it's not moving. It keeps all 3 layers sturdy on there. So, but yeah, we'll keep going on this, and we'll continue, and once I get all these hooped and quilted, I'll come back on here and we'll show you the next step on this. I have to say, one of the best feelings when you're quilting a quilt is when you get to that last hooping, y'all. I am on the last hooping of this quilt, as you can see right there on the edge, and it'll come down here, but we'll make sure that it doesn't grab the fabric. But y'all, this was a big quilt, so we'll get this last hooping stitch, and then we'll look and see what it looks like. So here is the quilt, all quilted. I think it turned out gorgeous. I'm loving the loops. The loops turned out really pretty. Like I said, it doesn't take away from the quilt, but yet it gives it that added touch. It gives it that added touch. And here's the back. Really can't see the quilting on it, but it's really, really pretty. You can see the stitching there. So, but anyways, so what is left? All it's left now is the binding. So get this binding and we'll get this shipped off. So thank y'all for watching and see y'all next time. Okay, so the quilt is all quilted. Let's take a look and see what it looks like. So here it is all quilted. All the loops, like I said, you didn't want to take away from the quilt because such a gorgeous quilt, so didn't want to do a color of thread that was going to show up really dark on there. So you just wanted to do a quilting on there that gets it quilted, gives it a little bit of an added touch, but not too much. And then here is the back, really pretty. And then you can kind of see the stitching there. Doesn't pop out, but kind of hides in there. So it turned out really, really, really pretty, y'all. So that quilt is finished. Just need to bind it. I'll get it all binded and probably get it shipped off this week. So thank y'all for watching, and I'll see y'all next time.